We've reviewed the evidence. The transfers came from your account, your credentials were used, and the money trail leads directly to your personal finances. The executive committee's words echoed in the conference room as I stared at the spreadsheet projected on the wall. 12 transactions over 6 months, all pointing to me. This is impossible, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I've never touched a penny of company money. The evidence suggests otherwise, Rachel said. Victor, my husband of 8 years and the company's CFO. He wouldn't meet my eyes. We've already contacted the authorities. The betrayal in that moment, watching my husband side with his colleagues against me, crystallized something I had been avoiding for years. This wasn't just about missing money. This was the culmination of a marriage built on control and manipulation. What Victor and the executive team never anticipated was that being accused would become my salvation, and that Melissa Chen, the quiet forensic accountant they'd brought in to build the case against me, would become the ally who helped me uncover a truth more shocking than I could have imagined. Victor and I met when I joined Meridian Technologies as a marketing director. He was already established as the financial wunderkind who had helped take the company public. We had been married for 8 years. Our 6-year-old son, Ethan, was the light of my life. The problems began subtly. First came the suggestions about my career choices. Wouldn't it be easier if you moved to a less demanding role? Victor would ask whenever I mentioned a stressful day. When I became pregnant with Ethan, Victor's suggestions became expectations. After months of arguments disguised as discussions, I agreed to step back from my director position and take a part-time consulting role that allowed me to work from home. Victor took control of our finances completely. I'm the CFO. He would remind me whenever I questioned a decision. Managing money is literally my expertise. He set up a system that gave me access to a household account with a modest monthly allowance. I remember one evening, about 2 years into this arrangement, I had discovered a promising investment opportunity through a former colleague and wanted to use some of my remaining savings to participate. I've already looked into that company, Victor said dismissively. Their fundamentals are shaky. You'd be throwing your money away. I've done my research, I countered. Their new patent has incredible potential. Victor's expression changed then. He walked to his home office without a word and returned with a folder, which he placed on the table between us. Do you know what this is? He asked quietly. I shook my head. It's a complete analysis of our financial situation if we were to divorce, he explained, opening the folder to reveal pages of spreadsheets and legal notes. I update it quarterly, just being pragmatic. The message was clear. This is what you'd walk away with. This is what you'd lose. Choose carefully. After that night, the folder became Victor's subtle weapon. He never needed to explicitly threaten divorce again. A simple reference to updating some paperwork was enough to remind me of my vulnerability. And then there was his mother, Eleanor, who reinforced every aspect of Victor's control with her own particular brand of criticism. Rachel, darling, you look absolutely exhausted, Eleanor Harrington declared as she swept into our home using the key Victor had given her, against my wishes. But I've brought something to cheer you up. Eleanor was the widow of a banking executive and moved through the world with the confidence of someone who had never been questioned. She had raised Victor alone after her husband's early death, and their relationship crossed the line from close to codependent long ago. She would visit at least twice weekly, inspecting our home with the scrutiny of a drill sergeant, offering helpful suggestions that were thinly veiled criticisms, and reporting my perceived failings back to Victor. Eleanor's influence extended beyond our home. As a major shareholder in Meridian Technologies and the widow of one of its early investors, she wielded considerable power in the company. She sat on the board, attended every executive function, and made it known that her son was her pride and the company's future. It was at one such function, the annual shareholders' gala, that the foundation for my current nightmare was laid. Victor tells me you've been asking questions about the company finances, Eleanor said, cornering me by the dessert table. I hope you're not causing difficulties for him at work as well as at home. I was just interested in how the new acquisition was being funded, I replied, keeping my tone light despite the accusation. As a consultant for the company, albeit in a reduced role, I have legitimate reasons to understand major business moves. Finance is Victor's domain, she said firmly. Your little marketing projects don't require you to concern yourself with the real business decisions. That night, as we drove home from the gala, I finally voiced what had been building for months. I can't keep doing this, Victor. I feel like I don't have a say in my own life anymore. Not in our finances, not in our parenting decisions, not even in my career. Victor kept his eyes on the road. You agreed to all of these arrangements. No one forced you. Under pressure, I clarified. And things have gone far beyond what I agreed to. Your mother has more say in our family decisions than I do. Victor pulled the car into our driveway and turned off the engine. In the sudden silence, his words fell like stones. Perhaps you should consider whether you're really suited for this life, Rachel. Not everyone is cut out to be part of the Harrington family. It was the closest he had come to an outright threat of divorce in years. The unspoken conclusion hung between us. And if you're not suited for this life, you certainly aren't suited to raise a Harrington child. After the gala confrontation, I began paying closer attention to the company's operations. What had started as casual interest became more focused as I noticed irregularities in project budgets that crossed my desk. 2 months after the gala, I received a meeting request from the executive committee, a group that included Victor and was chaired by Eleanor. When I arrived, I found not only the executive committee but also 2 people I didn't recognize who were introduced as external auditors. Rachel Harrington, began Eleanor, using my married name with unusual formality. We've asked you here today because a routine audit has uncovered some concerning financial activities linked to your department and your personal authorization. For the next hour, they laid out their case, a systematic embezzlement scheme that had diverted just over $400,000 from the company into what they claimed was my personal account. They had emails, authorization codes, and transfer records, all with my digital fingerprints. This is insane, I said when they finally finished. I don't have access to those kinds of funds or authorization levels. Actually, you do, Victor interjected, sliding a document across the table. Your consulting contract includes administrative access to certain marketing budgets. These transfers were disguised as payments to vendors you personally approved. I stared at the contract, my contract, with sections highlighted that I didn't remember. This isn't the contract I signed. It's the executed version on file with HR, said one of the auditors. Are you suggesting the company falsified its own records? The room felt airless. I looked around at the faces of people I'd worked with for years. Their expressions ranged from disappointment to disgust. Only one person wasn't looking at me with predetermined judgment, a young woman sitting slightly apart from the others, who had been introduced as Melissa Chen from the forensic accounting team. She was watching the exchange with narrowed eyes, her focus moving between me and Victor. I want a lawyer, I said finally, and copies of all of these records. As the meeting concluded, Victor approached me. I've moved some things to the guest house, he said quietly, for the sake of appearances and Ethan. I think it's best if you stay there until this is resolved. My mother will help with Ethan. I felt a cold clarity descend. You planned this, I said, the pieces suddenly fitting together. All of it. As I left the conference room, Melissa Chen stepped into the elevator with me. She didn't speak until the doors closed. Mrs. Harrington, she said in a low voice, I think you need to know that there are inconsistencies in what you just saw. The timestamps on some of those authorizations don't align with the server logs. It's subtle, but it's there. What are you saying? I asked, barely daring to hope for an ally. I'm saying the evidence looks too perfect, she replied. And in my experience, perfect evidence usually isn't. The elevator reached the lobby, and she stepped out. Check your personal email in an hour, she said without looking back. The guest house on our property was a beautiful prison. I was permitted supervised visits with my son, during which Eleanor was always present, watching and listening. Mommy, when are you coming back to the big house? Ethan asked during one such visit, his small face troubled. Soon, sweetheart, I promised, though I had no idea if it was true. Mommy and Daddy are just working through some grown-up stuff. Grandma says you took things that didn't belong to you, he said, his voice dropping to a whisper. But I told her you always make me put back toys at the store, so I know that's not true. My heart broke at his simple faith in me. That's right, Ethan, and we'll figure this out, I promise. True to her word, Melissa had sent me a message within an hour of our elevator conversation. The external audit was requested 6 months ago, before any of the transfers occurred. The system logs show your credentials being used at times when you were documented elsewhere. There are discrepancies in the digital signatures. Over the next 2 weeks, Melissa became my lifeline to sanity. Her messages were always factual and precise, detailing what she was finding as she dug deeper into the financial records. "The account where the funds were sent isn't actually yours," she wrote in one message. "It's registered to a shell corporation that was created 8 months ago. Someone went to considerable trouble to create a paper trail connecting you to this company. Why are you helping me?" I finally asked in one of our carefully encrypted exchanges. "You're putting yourself at risk." Her reply came hours later. 3 years ago, I was in a similar position at another company. No one believed me then. I lost my job, my reputation, and nearly my freedom. I promised myself I would never stand by if I saw it happening to someone else. With Melissa's guidance, I began building my own case. But the most damning evidence came from an unexpected source. Eleanor's personal assistant, Diane, who had worked for the Harrington family for over 20 years. We met at a small cafe 2 towns over, where Diane nervously slid a USB drive across the table. "I've worked for Mrs. Harrington since Victor was in college," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've seen things over the years, questionable things. But I told myself it wasn't my place to judge. But framing you, potentially sending you to prison, I can't be part of that." "What's on the drive?" I asked. "Emails between Mrs. Harrington, Victor, and James Whitley from the board. They've been systematically siphoning money from Meridian for years, using it to cover investment losses in a separate venture. And I became the scapegoat," I concluded. Deanne nodded. "You started asking questions, and Victor has been seeing someone else. For almost 2 years now. Eleanor approves. The woman comes from a family with connections they want. They've been planning to remove you from the picture for some time." The revelation should have hurt more than it did. Instead, I felt a strange relief. The truth, however ugly, was finally coming to light. The emergency board meeting was held in Meridian's largest conference room, with all 24 board members present. As the accused, I had been granted the right to address the board before they voted on whether to proceed with criminal charges. Victor looked surprised when I walked in with my lawyer, a digital forensics expert, and Melissa Chen. Eleanor's expression darkened at the sight of the forensic accountant she had personally hired, now apparently allied with me. For the next hour, we systematically dismantled the case against me. The digital forensics expert demonstrated how my credentials had been compromised and used when I was probably elsewhere. Melissa presented her findings on the discrepancies in the financial records. "What's most concerning," Melissa concluded, "is that the transactions in question appear to be part of a much larger pattern of financial irregularities going back several years, irregularities that long predate Mrs. Harrington's supposed involvement." I nodded to my lawyer, who distributed sealed envelopes to each board member. "What you're receiving is evidence of a long-term embezzlement scheme orchestrated by Eleanor Harrington, Victor Harrington, and James Whitley. The scheme has diverted approximately $3.2 million from Meridian Technologies over the past 5 years." The room erupted in chaos as board members opened their envelopes and began reviewing the documents inside. Victor's face had gone pale, while Eleanor remained rigidly composed, her eyes fixed on me with cold fury. "How dare you?" she said when the noise subsided enough for her to be heard. "After everything this family has done for you." "Family?" I interrupted. "Is that what you call it? Controlling my career, isolating me from my professional network, monitoring my finances, undermining my relationship with my son. That's not family, Eleanor. That's abuse." The board voted unanimously to place Eleanor, Victor, and James on immediate administrative leave pending a full investigation. They also voted to clear me of all accusations and to restore my position, though I declined the offer to return, having already accepted a director role at one of Meridian's competitors, arranged with Melissa's help. The months following the board meeting were challenging in different ways. The legal proceedings against Victor, Eleanor, and James became a media sensation. I did my best to shield Ethan from the worst of it, but children are perceptive. He knew his father had done something bad and wouldn't be living with us anymore. We moved from the Harrington estate to a modest but comfortable house closer to my new office. It was initially strange to have complete autonomy over my finances, my schedule, my home, to make decisions without anticipating criticism or control. The divorce proceedings were surprisingly straightforward. Victor, facing criminal charges and desperate to salvage any favorable public opinion, agreed to generous terms regarding custody and financial support. Melissa Chen became a close friend and eventually a colleague when she joined my new company as head of financial compliance. Her courage in standing up for the truth despite personal risk reminded me of qualities I had suppressed in myself for too long. Ethan, now 7, was thriving in his new school and had recently announced his intention to become a money detective like Miss Melissa when he grew up. His resilience amazed me daily, as did his capacity for joy despite the upheaval in his young life. One evening, as I tucked him into bed, he asked a question that caught me off guard. "Mom, are you glad Dad did that bad thing with the money?" I sat down on the edge of his bed, considering how to answer honestly but appropriately. "I'm not glad he did something wrong, Ethan. What he did hurt a lot of people, including you and me. But I am glad that the truth came out because it helped us build a healthier life." He nodded, processing this. "Grandma says we used to be important and now we're not." I smiled gently. Being important isn't about having a big house or lots of money or a famous name. It's about being honest and kind and helping others when you can. By that measure, I think we're more important now than we ever were before. He seemed satisfied with this answer and snuggled deeper under his covers. "I like our life better now," he said sleepily. "You smile more." His simple observation brought tears to my eyes. He was right, I did smile more. Despite the scandal, the stress of rebuilding, and the challenges of single parenthood, I had found an authentic happiness that had been absent during my years with Victor. 2 years after the Meridian incident, I established a foundation partnering with several major corporations to develop ethics training specifically addressing power dynamics and financial manipulation in both professional and personal contexts. At the launch event, I found myself standing at a podium before hundreds of business leaders. In the back of the room stood Ethan, now 9, watching proudly as his mother prepared to speak. He gave me a small thumbs up, and I felt a surge of gratitude for everything, even the betrayal, that had led us here. When I was falsely accused of embezzlement 3 years ago, I discovered that the most valuable currency isn't money, power, or influence. It's truth and the courage to stand for it, even when you stand alone. As I shared our story with the audience, I realized that being framed hadn't destroyed me as Victor and Eleanor had intended. Instead, it had stripped away everything that wasn't essential and revealed a core of resilience I hadn't known existed. The betrayal that was meant to end my story had instead become its most transformative chapter. In losing what I thought was security, I had found something far more valuable. Authentic freedom, purpose born from pain, and the profound knowledge that our worst moments can become the foundation for our best selves. I ended my speech with a simple truth that had become my guiding principle. Sometimes the thing that seems like it will break you becomes the very thing that sets you free.